Top 5 most common mistakes we see in manuscripts. No goals. I'm Karen Beery with Right Now Editing, where we turn good manuscripts into great books.
And I'm Peg Thomas, multi award winning author and editor, and we are two editors for 5 minutes.
And this week, we're going to talk about the second most common issue that I see when editing, and that's it, no goals. Starting my timer now. What I mean by no goals, this has been happening pretty regularly. Is I see the characters living their lives, but by the time I get to chapter 5, 6, I don't know what the main characters are trying to do. Like I see them going to work, I see them interacting with people, but I don't know what they're trying to achieve in the story. They're just kind of roaming around. Um, and what that does for me as a reader is it makes me wonder why should I keep watching them? Because it kind of reminds me if you ever played the games like The Sims where any of those video games where there's all of those non-player games, they just kind of wander around and they're just kind of wandering around. But they're the main characters. They shouldn't be wandering. They need to have goals. So Peg, what are we talking about when we talk about character goals?
Character goals are what our characters strive for, it's their reason for going forward in life. I just finished a book where the main character is an 8-year old. And you know what? 8-year olds have goals too. It's a little harder to define because you're trying to think back to when you were 8 and what but even at 8 you had a goal. It might be something very childish. It probably was. You were 8. But it's there's still something that you're working for. So in this particular case, this little girl was left an orphan, and her goal was simply to get back to having a family. She wanted a family again. She knew she couldn't get her family back, but she wanted to be part of a family. And that's an absolutely legitimate goal. It's very believable for an 8-year-old to want to be part of a family again. So I had to nail that down and then move forward. And sometimes it's really fun. When I put out Freedom's Promise, his goal was one thing, but he didn't get it because as time went on, he saw that he was being used by God in a different direction. And he gave up his goal to do what he was felt led to do. So that was really a fun one because he had a definite goal in the beginning. And his character arc was accepting what God had for him over what he wanted for himself. Um, and I held my breath as I released that one, wondering what readers were going to say about it. But most of them very, very positive. So if you do it well, you can show that not every goal gets achieved, and it can still be okay.
That's actually probably a whole another 5 minutes we could talk about. Uh, but the reason showing that goal in the opening pages of a book is so important is because we want to know what they're striving for, because you need to know if the character is achieving or not. Are they succeeding? So with this 8-year-old, how do we know if this is a good story or if it's a bad story if we don't know what she wants out of her life? If we see her running around and she's trying to connect with families, but we don't know, is maybe she's a little thief, maybe she's a pickpocket, and maybe she's just a I don't know if you remember, from the '90s, there was a TV movie called Curly Sue, and it was this little girl who worked with her dad. They were total con artists. So watching that but understanding that goal made you relate to the characters very differently than if you knew that that little girl was really trying to find a family. So if you're not establishing goals early, and it doesn't have to be like Peg said, it doesn't have to be something that they achieve, and it doesn't have to be a life altering goal that's going to sustain through the whole book. Honestly, I think the best books have goals that are unmet or that they change. But we need to know something about what the character wants. Otherwise, we don't know if we're rooting for them, we don't know if we're crying with them. Like I said, they're just these little sim characters wandering around aimlessly.
And please, if you write romance, the goal is not just to meet the him or meet the her. There has to be
Mm.
more than that in your romance. There has to be more dimension to your characters than that. That's an important part of romance. You got to have the guy meets girl, girl meets, that's got to be there. But it's got to be more than that. They have to
That
be three-dimensional characters.
that is a plot point. That is not a character goal. And Peg, we did it. That's 5 minutes. It only
That might
took
be
us
the
a
only
few
time
weeks.
this year, folks. Enjoy it.
All right. And actually, that is a really good tie-in to next week. But stop back next week as we talk about one of the top 5 most common issues that I see in manuscripts. Until then, I'm Karen Beery.
And I'm Peg Thomas, and we'll see you next time.